Howdy, howdy. So this is just going to be a quick rundown on bitmap tracing. I'll try to do this as quick as possible, but still try not to leave anything out. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our new file. And we'll go with a width of, let's say, 18, a height of 25, and a thickness of, let's go 0.75. We'll be working in inches. We'll go off material surface. For design, I always start with my datum position in the center. We're going to make this a single-sided job. We don't have to worry about double-sided for right now. And so 18 by 25, 75, material surface, datum center. Just leave my modeling resolution here for right now. And I'm going to set this to MDF, which I never really noticed much of a difference in that kind of stuff. So that's not Aspire or any of the Vectric software strong point, but it'll do. And click OK. So the first thing I'm going to do is come up to my bitmap import, and I'm going to bring in from one that I have on my desktop here. Come down, and this one pretty much everybody should know. Yes, it's the Pooh Bear. Alright, so right now I think this looks pretty good. We've got it in. It is selected. You can tell by the magenta box around it. And we're going to come over to our other little bird. See the bird up there is connected to the bird down here for us. So this is trace bitmap. And we are going to trace. And this is a black and white image, so I will leave it at black and white. Our threshold looks pretty good right there. I'm going to keep this. I might even put this tight up a little higher. Let's go. I'll take it about 80%. A lot of these settings you can kind of play with and see how they look. Noise filter I'll leave at 1. The fading's fine. You can just fade it more or bring it up, whichever you like. I kind of keep it. Just keep it in the middle. As long as you can see it, you're okay. And we'll go ahead and leave group vectors checked. That way it'll keep it all together. And because if we didn't, we would eventually end up doing it anyhow. But actually, I might want to rescale it, so definitely have it checked. Okay, now we're going to do a preview. And as we preview, you can see my outlines pop up, which if we zoom in, I'm just doing that with the scroll wheel on the mouse. It looked pretty tight. Yeah, it looks real good. Look at that. Very nice. I really like the bitmap trace in the Vectric programs. It's one of the best. I actually prefer it most cases to Adobe Illustrator or Corel Draw. So now that the preview looks good to me, I'm going to apply it. And I can close this window out. Now I still have my bitmap in the background, so I'm going to come up here to layer 1, and as you can see, when we import a bitmap, it puts it on its own layer. And I'm just going to turn it off by clicking on the little light bulb. I don't need it anymore. So now we have our outline and we have all our insides. Now I group this because I'm going to scale it up a little bit. And not a whole lot, but I'm thinking right about there. That looks pretty good. All right, now I'm going to ungroup this by coming over here to you have the chain, which is group. See the little chain links there? And we have the X, which is ungroup. I'm going to click on ungroup. Now these are all individual pieces. If we click on them, we can see. I'm going to select the outline here and make sure that it goes all the way around our little Pooh Bear, which it does. Now I'm going to go hover over, and you'll notice that I got to have my mouse right on that thing there. I'm going to right click. I'm going to move to layer. I'm going to move it to a new layer, and I'm going to name that layer outline. well, not with that part in there, am I? There we go. So outline. And I'm going to, at this point in time, make this. How do I want to do this? Let's make it invisible. And we're going to say, okay. So now it took that away. And that's pretty much all I think I'm going to do on the design side. So we're going to select our Pooh Bear here. Now selecting from left to right, click and drag and make sure your bounding box goes around all the pieces. Right to left, I can just kind of cut across them, and anything that touches or is encompassed will select. So let's say if I just do that, it just gets his head. Do that, it just gets his hand, his arm. Coming this way, nothing unless I completely get it in there or get everything in there. So either way you want to select that is fine. Or you can actually probably, we'll go Control A, which is select all. Or you could come up to here and let's see if we have a select up here. Usually, nope, but Control A does it as well. So Control A selects all. Now I'm going to open my little door here, close this door, open up the right side, and I'm going to pocket this part out. As this is a pretty good model. Our cut depth, let's see, we went 3/4, so we're going to make this let's go 0.3, and I am going to use a ball nose to give us a rounded edge. And I don't want to use one of the test ones. I want to use, let's go with a 1/4 inch ball nose. Say OK. And down here for a large area clearance tool, I'm definitely going to use that, and I'm going to go with a 1/2 inch end mill. And I'm going to say OK. And I think we're going to raster this one. And I will do, well, because this is MDF, it doesn't really matter if I do climb or conventional. So I'll just do, let's just do conventional for now. I'm not going to worry about a pocket allowance. I'm definitely going to ramp it, but because it's a big bit, I'm going to ramp it over, let's say 1 inch should be fine. I'm not worried about the vector selection order. I'm not trying to project the toolpath, or I don't have a 3D model to project it onto. So I'm going to call this pocket, and that's going to be my first operation. So I'm going to say 01 pocket, and I'm going to use ball nose, and that was a 1/4 inch. We'll go 2.5. I'm going to calculate that. That's going to give me 2 tool paths because I use 2 different tools, and I use a large area clearance tool. So I'm going to come here for the clearance, and I'm going to right click on that one. I'm going to rename that to EM5, or you could even go 50 for 1/2 inch, 0.50. You could put the points in there, but I know I'm not going to use a 50 inch anything, so I'm not worried about it. All right, so now we have those, and let's take a preview of this toolpath and see how it looks. So I'll go ahead and turn animation on. I usually prefer to leave it off because in most cases I just want to see the end result. And we will preview all because I want to do both of these. And right now it usually runs quite a bit faster than this, but I'm also doing the screen capture recording, so that's kind of taking up some of the GPU, so it's a little slower than it normally would be. And now we're on to our finishing, or our second toolpath with this, which is the ball nose. And now that we're done with that, let's roll her up and see what we got. All right, and that looks pretty good. I kind of like what I'm seeing there. In the end, this would be painted, so all these special places would be painted the proper colors to actually give it the depth that it needed. All right, so we got these two done. We're going to close out of this. And now we're going to come up to our layers, and we're going to turn on our outline layer. And we can turn off our layer 1 if we want. Come back to our 2D view. Now the only thing we have showing is our outline. We're going to select that. You can go back over the 3D if you want, but we have our 2D or our outline selected. And for that, I'm going to do a profile, which will cut around our object. And I'm going to go to the outside of the line. And to the right end of our cut depth, I'm going to go the full depth, which for this I'll 0.755. And of course it's going to tell me that you're cutting through, and that's what we want. Because this is MDF, I won't worry about a separate last pass. Tabs, if you're not gonna, depending how you mount this to your spoil board, you may have to use tabs or not. If you just put screws through the corners into your spoil board, you're going to need tabs. If you're using double-sided stick tape, you won't need tabs. So I'm going to leave them off and say, and I usually use the double-sided tape, or I use the tape and super glue method. And we're going to ramp this down again over 1 inch, and we'll let it shuttle. And this is going to be, actually I do need to change the name of that other toolpath again. This is going to be operation 3 underscore, and we'll leave that profile. And let's delete that out. And this is with, what are we using, a 1/4 inch end mill in here, so we'll go EM.25. So you can put the point in there. I usually don't like those in just because Windows may get a bit finicky about them. All right, so now let's go ahead, and everything looks good. Let's calculate this one out. Of course, it's going to tell me the material thickness is 0.75, and we're cutting 0.755 just to make sure we get all the way through. And we'll say OK. And then what I need to do is with our pocket here, our clearance is going to be our first toolpath. So I'm going to rename this. I'm just going to change this to operation number 2 because these will all be separate toolpaths. Each one is using a different tool, so it will have to be changed. So now let's go back down here to our profile. We will preview our selected toolpath. And round she goes. And now that we're done, if we just double click on the waist out here, it disappears. And there we have our Winnie the Pooh, which I like that. That looks pretty cool. And remember, if you're moving around in here and you're manipulating your object and you get a little lost, all you have to do is come up here and click any one of these and they'll show you that particular view, which Z is your default view here. Alright, so we have our Winnie the Pooh here. Now what we're going to do is we would go to save out each of our toolpaths. So, oh, by the way, if you wanted to check your times, we would come up here, click on this with all of them selected. Our total machine time is going to be 1 hour, 25 minutes, 39 seconds. And here's a breakdown for each operation. And I actually think our rapid rate is actually higher than that, so it may be shorter. But it gives you a decent idea of how long this is going to take. And we're going to uncheck this. We'll do them one at a time. I'm going to check the first one here, and I'm going to save the toolpath and make sure your particular machine is selected. So right now I'm going to use the Shark arcs because we're not doing 3D here, and of course it is in inch, very important. If you design in inches, make sure you cut in inches. It will be a tap file, and we are going to save that to, I will just go to the desktop, create a new folder, we'll call it Winnie. I'm going to select that one and I'm going to save it. Then I'm going to come down here to number 2, save that one, and the name is fine. We're going to save it to the same folder, and we're going to come out of here, we're going to come to this one, and we're going to save that toolpath as well, and we'll save it there. So now our toolpaths are saved and ready to go to the machine, and close out of this. Now let's say you wanted to show somebody this image here. What you can do is, I believe it's in our preview toolpaths, yes. If you like what you're seeing here, you can always come over here, click on Save Preview Image, and this will actually save this as a JPEG. Okay, now if you click on this, it's not going to save your project. It's just going to save a picture of what we have right here. Okay. When you click on this and you save your toolpaths, it is not saving your project, it is just saving these toolpaths. To save our project, if we're happy with it, we come over here and we're going to click here. We're going to go File, Save As, and again I'll save it to the same folder, and I'm going to name it Winnie, and I will save it in the Winnie folder, and we're all set. And you can tell it looks a little funky sometimes depending on how you're looking at it. But if you move it around, you can actually see it just kind of plays tricks on your eyes sometimes. So that all looks good. And pretty much that is it for a just a pocketed and cut out design. Not much to it at all. And just remember, have your machine set up properly. Make sure your datum position, which I started in the middle and I left it in the middle. Usually for an image like this or a design like this, I would probably start from the left corner. But it really doesn't matter in this case. As long as you've got it where it's supposed to be and it matches up with what your program is, you're all set. All right, guys, so that does it for Winnie the Pooh. If anybody has any questions, you guys have my email address. Be sure to email me and have fun. And y'all know where to get a hold of me. Take care and see you next time.